We're in Genesis 27, 1 to 45. Let's read. When Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he could no longer see, he called for his elder son Esau and said to him, "My son." "Here I am," he answered. Isaac said, "I'm now an old man and don't know the day of my death. Now then, get your equipment, your quiver and bow, and go out to the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare me the kind of tasty food I like and bring it to me to eat, so that I may give you my blessing before I die." Now Rebekah was listening as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. When Esau left for the open country to hunt game and bring it back, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Look, I overheard your father say to your brother Esau, 'Bring me some game and prepare me some tasty food to eat, so that I may give you my blessing in the presence of the Lord before I die.' Now, my son, listen carefully and do what I tell you. Go out to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats so that I can prepare some tasty food for your father, just the way he likes it. Then take it to your father to eat, so that he may give you his blessing before he dies." Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, "But my brother Esau is a hairy man, while I have smooth skin. What if my father touches me? I'd appear to be tricking him and would bring down a curse on myself rather than a blessing." His mother said to him, "My son, let the curse fall on me. Just do what I say. Go and get them for me." So he went and got them and brought them to his mother, and she prepared some tasty food, just the way his father liked it. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of her elder son Esau, which she had in the house, and put them on her younger son Jacob. She also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with the goat skins. Then she handed to her son Jacob the tasty food and the bread she had made. He went to his father and said, "My father." "Yes, my son," he answered. "Who is it?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing." Isaac asked his son, "How did you find it so quickly, my son?" "The Lord your God gave me success," he replied. Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Come near so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you really are my son Esau or not." Jacob went close to his father Isaac, who touched him and said, "The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau." He did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau, so he proceeded to bless him. "Are you really my son Esau?" he asked. "I am," he replied. Then he said, "My son, bring me some of your game to eat, so that I may give you my blessing." Jacob brought it to him, and he ate. And he brought some wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Come here, my son, and kiss me." So he went to him and kissed him. When Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, "Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness, an abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed." After Isaac finished blessing him, and Jacob had scarcely left his father's presence, his brother Esau came in from hunting. He too prepared some tasty food and brought it to his father. Then he said to him, "My father, please sit up and eat some of my game, so that you may give me your blessing." His father Isaac asked him, "Who are you?" "I am your son," he answered, "your firstborn Esau." Isaac trembled violently and said, "Who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me? I ate it just before you came, and I blessed him, and indeed he will be blessed." When Esau heard his father's words, he burst out with a loud and bitter cry and said to his father, "Bless me too, my father." But he said, "Your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing." Esau said, "Isn't he rightly named Jacob? This is the second time he has taken advantage of me. He took my birthright, and now he's taken my blessing." Then he asked, "Haven't you reserved any blessing for me?" Isaac answered Esau, I've made him lord over you, and have made all his relatives his servants, and I've sustained him with grain and new wine. So what can I possibly do for you, my son?" Esau said to his father, "Do you have only one blessing, my father? Bless me too, my father." Then Esau wept aloud. His father Isaac answered him, "Your dwelling will be away from the earth's richness, away from the dew of heaven above. You will live by the sword, and you will serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you will throw his yoke from off your neck." Esau held a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing his father had given him. He said to himself, "The days of mourning for my father are near, then I will kill my brother Jacob." When Rebekah was told what her elder son Esau had said, she sent for her younger son Jacob and said to him, "Your brother Esau is planning to avenge himself by killing you. Now then, my son, do what I say. Flee at once to my brother Laban in Haran. Stay with him for a while until your brother's fury subsides. When your brother is no longer angry with you and forgets what you said to him, I'll send word for you to come back here from there. Why should I lose both of you in one day? Well, it really is a dramatic story, isn't it? Full of tension and twists, and some of it just makes you laugh out loud. And yet at heart is deception and lies. And what's it all about? What's all this effort and tears at the end about? It's about the blessing of Isaac. And that is very much tied into the inheritance, to the promises made to Abraham. We mustn't forget the context of the story. You'll might have spotted as Isaac was blessing Jacob here, and talked about may those who curse you be cursed and those who bless you be blessed. That's a quote from Genesis 12 and God's promise to Abraham. And so it's all about being in the promised family line here. And so this blessing is really important. And so Isaac naturally wants to pass the blessing on to the oldest son. That's how the inheritance rights worked. Rebecca, who loves Jacob more, overhears, and so hatches this incredible plot for Jacob to steal the inheritance rights from his brother by deception. And a lot of it's just laughable, isn't it? He's got to wear his brother's clothes. He's got to wear animal skins to be hairy like his brother. He lies to his father, even blasphemously, when his father says, how did you catch it so quickly? Your God provided for me. Your God blessed me in the hunting. Is the response. It's all so wrong, frankly. And you sense the tension. You sense Jacob's nervousness. He knows the difference, and yet Rebecca's egging him on. You get the sense of the seriousness of this because Jacob's worried about getting a curse rather than a blessing, and his mum says, let the curse fall on me. This is strong language here. And in the end, you get the sense of timing as Jacob literally finishes extracting the blessings from his father, and Esau comes in ready to receive it. And then Isaac's grief that he's been deceived, and Esau's anger and tears as he's lost out on the blessing. And the blessing he receives from his father is that he's going to be away from the blessing. And although he's going to be a servant, he'll eventually throw off the yoke. It's no great encouragement to him. And it finishes with Esau desperate to kill his brother, and Rebecca having to send Jacob away now for his safety and saying, come back when it's all over. Well, if you follow the plot through, she's never going to see him again. And you just think, what a mess, and what's going on here, and how can we learn from this? Well, it teaches a lot about the importance of the blessing. The fact they're fighting over it doesn't, I'm not commending their methods, but what they're after is so important. This blessing being in the promised line of Abraham is something that is really important. To have this blessing of God's blessing, it's something we just don't value today in society. It's not something people are scrabbling for, and yet they recognize at least the importance of that. Shows us the depravity of human nature, that a family can be so divided that a husband and wife can be vying over their children and having favorites and deception and elaborate ruses to wrest it. Jacob is rightly named as his brother. He's the deceiver. Twice he's got the better of Esau now. And so we see the depravity of human nature. But also there are, I guess, other bigger themes that we need to think about. When Esau lost the birthright, it was because of his own greed. He wanted the bowl of stew rather than the future blessing. And it's interesting that the author to Hebrews links then that to this, the loss of the blessing, when he says in Hebrews 12:16, see that no one is sexually immoral or is godless like Esau, who for a single meal sold his inheritance rights as the oldest son. Afterwards, as you know, when he wanted to inherit this blessing, he was rejected. Even though he sought the blessing with tears, he could not change what he had done. So it's interesting that the author to the Hebrews connects that earlier decision to ditch the birthright for the bowl of stew with his loss now. Now, it's difficult to see how those two are connected because he doesn't seem to do anything wrong here. But in God's providence, perhaps, God has allowed this to happen, this ruse and this deception, because of the way he valued it back then. That would seem to be the case. And it's too late to cry now. It's no good to cry now. He's lost it. He's made that choice to walk away from it. When we come into Romans, then, we're told that why is the difference between the two? Earlier in Genesis, it had talked about the older would serve the younger, that actually in God's purposes, Jacob would gain the ascendancy over Esau. Why is that? In the New Testament, in Romans, we're told it's because God loved Jacob and not Esau. So we're seeing here the importance of God's blessing. We're seeing the depravity of human nature. Both characters are depraved here, both Esau and Jacob. Neither of them shine through, and yet we're told that Jacob ends up with the blessing because God loves him. It's clearly not because he's the more righteous character. And we'll see in the coming days that actually God is going to have to deal with Jacob and confront him with his own deception. He's going to be the victim of a deception later on. And just as we're seeing on Sunday nights with Joseph's brothers, God will deal with our sin and confront it in us and refine us if we're his people. And that's going to happen to Jacob. It never happens to Esau because he's chosen not to be one of God's people. He's rejected the blessing. So there are lessons to reflect on there. But as I was reading it, it just made me think about actually the covering that we need. Jacob, to secure the blessing, had to pretend to be Isaac and covered himself with, had to pretend to be Esau, covered himself with Esau's identity to try and sneak the blessing. And it's all very insecure. And it just made me think of the fact that actually for me to secure the blessing, I'm covered with Christ's identity. And there's nothing deceptive about that. It's a free gift. It's what he has volunteered to do for me, to take my sin on himself and to grant me his righteousness. So I'm now clothed in Christ so that I can stand before the Father and receive his blessing. And that's a huge comfort to me today.